cut those taxes.
Excuse me, it's important you answer the questions because you want people's votes. How much extra money would you raise by changing the current corporation tax and capital gains tax structures?
But Andrew, we've talked about in absolute detail about the current tax system, and we said actually that the money that the decisions that the government have made and the decisions on where they're spending current money is completely inappropriate.
So how much would you save?
You've cut 50%. In my constituency, both of my councils have seen over 50% cuts to their budget. No. So all of the people that need support are in acute services now, crippling our NHS.
So you would be able to give them more money by changing the corporation tax and changing the capital gains tax to raise more money.
You don't cut taxes when you need that money to help. You should be investing.
You don't know, do you?
You should be investing in those services.
Angela Rayner is the political equivalent of showing up to a chess match with a hammer, then acting surprised when everyone looks confused. If there were a Mount Rushmore for unqualified ambition, she'd already be getting her place carved right between Liz Truss and that lettuce that famously outlasted her. And just when we thought politics couldn't get more embarrassing, here comes Angela Rayner, storming through Parliament like a bulldog in stilettos with zero self-awareness and not a hint of irony.
What do you make of her then as the Deputy Prime Minister? Do you trust her?
No.
Why not?
I think she's a load of rubbish. She doesn't do anything for Ashton.
What do you make of these secret proposals by Angela Rayner, the MP for this area, to increase taxes?
I heard it on the news this morning, and it's just another thing that the Labour government are doing. They're just taxing the people, just the same as Conservatives. We need a change.
It kind of sums her up, to be honest. Yeah. She's a very unequivocal woman who, I don't want to get too far into this, but nah. I don't think she's doing us any favours in terms of a proper Labour Party.
As long as I can get up in the morning, I'm happy.
Terrible.
Now let's talk about her big moment with Andrew Neil. Yes, that unforgettable, televised public takedown. Angela tried to string together her thoughts, but Andrew Neil, the professional intellectual shark, smelled blood before she even opened her mouth. Watching her try to answer basic economic questions was like watching someone attempt to defuse a bomb with only a fork and blind optimism. Spoiler alert, it exploded slowly, in high definition, with subtitles for the politically confused.
So can I bring you back to my question? What would Labour do?
Well, we've already talked about, some of the taxation decisions that the government have made around inheritance tax, capital gains tax, corporation tax, where you've given away money. Okay. This is what Jeremy was talking about in Prime Minister's question today. You've given away money that actually, quite frankly, we need to spend. And it's not just about an ageing population. That is phony. People know about the ageing population for some time. We've cut the criteria so people can't get community care. We treat our older people at the moment like dogs. It's a disgrace. We shouldn't do that.
But, excuse me, and
putting the money in the primary care
Would you
services.
reverse the cuts on corporation tax?
I think that the cuts on corporation tax are missing a point because we need that money. We need that money at the moment.
Would you reverse it? Hold on.
Inheritance tax.
Would you reverse them?
I think that at the moment, cutting at a time where we need those services and people need those services is the wrong decision to make.
But I'm asking you, would you reverse the cut in corporation?
Angela Rayner is that rare type of politician who seems oddly proud of not being prepared like it's some kind of working class badge of honour. Look at me. I don't need facts. I've got vibes. But Angela, the vibes have already left the building, and no, they didn't pay union dues on the way out. So don't bother chasing them.
But I'm telling you, Andrew, that our priority is
you're not telling me the question.
I am. I'm saying that the cuts in corporation tax, the cuts in inheritance tax, the cuts in capital gains tax.
But what's the cut in capital gains tax?
But what's really important, Andrew?
No, excuse me. I'm asking you a question. What's the cut in the capital gains tax?
They've cut the capital gains tax. They did that. They did that as part of the coalition government.
No, they raised the capital gains tax in the coalition government.
Well, what I'm saying, Andrew, and
what you're saying is wrong. They raised the capital gains tax to 28%.
What I'm saying is that they've given tax cuts to absolutely the richest in the country at the same time where they've told the poorest people in this country over the past. It is true. At the same time that you've told the people in this.
Remember when she said she wanted to level up the country? Yeah, apparently, that means dragging everyone down to the level of her own political understanding, which hovers somewhere between Peppa Pig economics And I saw a TikTok about inflation. Once, Angela treats facts the way cats treat water, confused by them, suspicious of them, and determined to avoid them at all costs.
Today should have been a breeze for Keir Starmer, the first Labour Prime Minister to address a Labour conference in 15 years, a return to power with a stonking majority, the Tories reduced almost to a rump and mired in yet another interminable leadership contest. But it's far from a breeze. Labour's honeymoon ended before there was even time to pop open the champagne. Labour's already losing ground in the polls. It's already lost its lead in Scotland. And Starmer's personal ratings are tanking. The fragility of winning a massive majority on just over a third of the vote, it's an unprecedented outcome in a British election, has been exposed.
Let's not forget her most beloved talent shouting over people in Parliament, like she's auditioning for the lead role for her kitchen argument. Because nothing says future Prime Minister like turning every policy discussion into an episode of Real Housewives of Westminster. She's like a foghorn with opinions loud, jarring, and mostly affected by the weather. Now Andrew Neil, being the human scanner that he is, actually dared to ask her real questions. Unforgivable, really. Didn't he know she was only there for slogans, not substance? It was like giving someone a driving test when they thought they were going on a bus tour. The poor woman looked like she was trying to summon economic theory through pure willpower, hoping a quote from Keynes might magically appear in the ceiling tiles.
Almost everything folks don't like about this Labour government was started under the Tories, which makes voters reluctant to give the Conservatives much of a hearing and certainly undermines whatever it is Tory shadow ministers are saying. It's striking that so much of today's political dialogue is now between Labour and Reform, with the Tories marginalised or even excluded from the conversation. The polls tell their own dire story for the Tories, the latest ones of them on 16 to 18%, an historic low, with Reform pushing 30%, Labour.
Every time Angela Rayner opened her mouth, it felt like watching a game show where the goal was basic understanding and she kept hitting the buzzer without knowing how to play. You could almost hear the rusty gears turning in her head as she flipped through an imaginary binder labelled emergency buzzwords, used when clueless. Out came words like fairness, working people, and the all-time favourite, Tories bad. Each one had less to do with the actual question than the last dot. It wasn't really an interview, it was more like watching someone freestyle their way through a GCSE economics exam after drinking a couple of wine coolers. Her answers had the structure of a TED Talk written by an aide, only on protest signs and motivational Instagram captions. GDP. Apparently, that stands for good day, pet, fiscal responsibility. Sounds more like an oat milk brand. Honestly, you'd get more solid economic thinking from a drunk uncle shouting at a slot machine.
I had to endure it as a ginger, so I've got one up there. I've seen firsthand the difference that makes, and so has Keir. We grew up in different ends of the country and at different times. Not too different. But we endured the same insecurities and hardship that so many working people face. I guess the one difference is, though, I had to endure it as a ginger. So I've got one up there.
Angela's strategy. When logic fails, just yell louder. When a question gets too close to needing real knowledge, she quickly shifts to blaming billionaires hoarding wealth like dragons, and pretends that shouting equals leadership. It's not just political theatre anymore, it's a clown car, with a foghorn in the driver's seat and no brakes in sight. Now let's talk about qualifications. Her supporters love to say she rose through the ranks like a balloon in a wind tunnel. Sure, she started as a care worker, which is genuinely admirable, but that doesn't automatically qualify you to run an entire country. That's like asking your Uber driver to fly a Boeing 747 just because they once dropped you off at the airport. Angela often describes herself as real, as if that alone counts as a political plan, but being real doesn't mean being ready. I'd like my surgeon to be real too, but I'd also hope they don't think open heart is just a metaphor.
We will build on. A pledge is not an indication. A pledge is a word, is your word. It's a pledge.
Bit collective
it's
action.
Not in your pledge.
Well, the pledge is 3 lines, Andrew. You're asking me for more detail and I'm giving it to you.
Well, but the fact is the 2016 Trade Union Act, when it comes to cribbing and curtailing union power, is not the key legislation. Because you're hiding behind the process.
No, the Labour Party
Why
said...
don't you do what the other candidates do and tell... Don't Labour members have a right, as they decide whether to vote for you or not, they want to know where your money's coming from?
I've been asked that many times. I've said it's coming from trade unions, from crowdfunding, from individual donations.
Who's your biggest donor?
It's coming from those 3. One of my biggest donors was put up on the website, I think, yesterday.
Right, that's one of the lawyer.
Yeah.
This was celebration of incompetence dressed up as authenticity. Oh, she's just like us. No, she's not. She's in Parliament and we're out here paying taxes to cover the cost of her bad decisions. And worse hairstyles every time Angela Rayner opened her mouth. It felt like tuning into a chaotic new quiz show. Can just that policy except the host doesn't know the rules. The audience is screaming and the prize is national embarrassment, and out it came fairness, hard-working families levelling up, and of course the ever-dependable Tories bad. It didn't matter what the question was.
Working with allies on the UN resolution, we've got to have a government in Syria, a political solution that protects civilians and infrastructure, because as we've seen with the Assad regime, it has been unstable. We want to see that stability and we'll work towards that with our allies.
Bloody dar. I mean, what the hell is that all about? All she's doing there, she's being drilled by the media advisors, the press office. Right, just say something about the UN resolution and we're sticking to that and we're working with allies. Very difficult, fast-moving situation. In other words, she didn't have the first clue what
She was asked her about inflation, and she's off on a tangent about someone's not being able to heat the kettle. Ask her about GDP, and you'll get an emotional speech about Greg's sausage rolls and regional burroots. Her responses had all the coherence of a horoscope written by Laboratite. Was like watching a TED Talk scripted by a malfunctioning Etch-a-Sketch. Just be good day pet fiscal policies that a tick top dance trend honestly on my wedge house plant. Cold dressite, more nuanced monetary theory. Just be photosynthesizing near an economics textbook. Angela's go-to move was tosh out over the question. Mere might unlock the secrets of the universe. The interviewer dared to probe deeper, shed detour. Is a some Denzian tale about evil billionaires bathing in champagne while miners eat gravel.
Scottish phrase earlier in this interview, let me use another one. People are simply scunnered with Labour and the Tories. They don't want to vote for you. And indeed, if you look at these polls, Labour on, 25, you on 15, 16, your combined share of the vote is the lowest ever. They just don't want to vote Tory truths. They're not listening. They don't care what your truth is. Almost everything people have come to dislike about this government, this Labour government, started under the...
It's politics by way of pantomime, where facts are optional, flair is compulsory, and the very question is met with the raw energy of someone whose only training was binge watching angry Facebook videos. It's not policy, it's panto, and Angela's got the lead role complete with jazz hands and a foghorn. And let's be honest, she's never met a soundbite she didn't want to adopt and raise as her own working people cost of living social justifications. She's that kid in school who didn't do the homework but still got picked as class president because she had energy, and now she's got power, is using it to lead the Labour Party into the abyss with all the confidence of some Ian, who just discovered spell check.
Your government created the most expensive domestic electricity in the world. That's what we have to pay in our households. The most expensive, even higher than Germany, whose energy policies have been even more bonkers than your energy.
Remember her speeches at the party conferences? Of course not, because no one does. They're their political version of fast food, forgot or greasy, with buzzwords, guaranteed to cause indigestion. It's Al delivery, no digestion style over substance volume. Over values, slogans, over strategy. Angela doesn't do nuance. She does blame everything wrong with their country. The Tories, inflation Tories. Excrisers Tories, your milk's gone off, probably the Tories. She's turned political discourse into a permanent blame game. Angela's world where Labour never has to take responsibility for anything, because they've outsourced siege wilt to the other side of the ace. Let's not forget her most famous policy to performative outrage. Every time something bad happens, she materialise on Twitter or outside Downing Street like an angry ghost condemning it, with all the substance of a Facebook post.
What happened in France, what is unfolding in France, is the defeat of the centre and the failure of centrist policies. These are exactly the policies which Keir Starmer is going to be elected on.
Yeah.
If he fails in Britain, and don't forget his policies are obsessed with net zero, pretty relaxed about immigration, high taxes, industrial strategy, metropolitan-based, metropolitan concerns rather than provincial concerns. If he fails, well, I can tell you this, Britain ain't going further left. There's only other one way it is going, and that is to the more populist.
When it comes time to proper solutions, she vanishes like common sense. At a style press conference, Angela Rayner is a living, breathing cautionary tale of what happens when populism dresses itself up as progress. She's not the antidote to right-wing incompetence, she's its twin-wearing. A different shade or flipstick. Labour didn't find a champion of the people, they found a shouty house merchant with the political instincts of a stunned sheep. Every time Angela Rayner spoke, it was like witnessing a political scenes where common sense was the ghost that never showed up. Imagine someone trying to explain quantum physics while simultaneously assembling IKEA furniture with no instructions and a rubber spoon.
Worst economy ever, which is just patent nonsense, and it was soon seen to be talking Britain down. There's already a sense of desperation. Hoary old fallbacks are being retrieved from bottom drawers. A war on waste. Never heard that before. Crack down on benefit fraud. Ooh, nobody's tried that. Tougher on tax evasion. Ooh, new to me. All worthwhile, of course, in their own right. None likely to much ignite the British economy. And
that's the vibe she strut into interviews, like she had all the answers tucked neatly in her brain, only for it to become painfully clear she was drawing policy ideas from back of a cereal box, and not even a good cereal, one of those knockoff brands that cuts the roof of your mouth and still tastes like cardboard. Regret her buzzwords were like magic spells from a bargain bin wizard. Fairness, ordinarable, levelling up, billionaires. Bad chanted in whatever order seemed loudest and smartest. If you asked her about interest rates, you'd get a tragic poem about someone's dog freezing in a council flat. Ask her about public sector reform, and she launched into a spoken word piece about her cows and shaders who once paid VAT on a shampoo.
On the record to our viewers that memo was not leaked by you or anyone connected to you.
I do not leak. I think leaks are very damaging. I'm 100% behind our cabinet and the decisions that we make collectively.
Could anybody affiliated to you, any ally, friend, supporter of you, have leaked this memo?
Well, again,
Are you sure it was no one connected to you?
I'm not going to stray into the leak other than I absolutely...
But you just said it wasn't you.
But I absolutely condemn anyone who leaks piecemeal information about what our government is up to. We work collectively as a government, and I fully support...
Her thought process was like a browser, with 47 tabs open, all frozen, with a pop-up ad screaming blame the Tories. Her entire economic strategy goal probably fit on a sticky note written in crayon. And let's not even start on the body language, grand sweeping gestures, like she's auditioning for a Shakespearean tragedy set in a little car park. Angela doesn't answer questions. She performs emotional slam poetry with a side of aggressive effinging. It's less a political position and more a high-stakes game of Mad Libs, shouted through a megaphone. Picture someone wearing a high-vis jacket made of contradictions, waving a placard that just says hope but spelled wrong. That's Angela Rayner's policy pitch, Chancellor of Thixgear, or a contestant on Britain's Got Confusion.
Funnily enough, Angela Rayner doesn't have a unique thought to herself, because Lewis Goodall, who's the one who's interviewing her, before that, the start of that clip, actually says, "Do you think, Angela, that you're the victim of misogyny and classism?" Then she goes, "Oh yeah, I am actually." She doesn't have original thought in her brain, quite frankly, Angela Rayner. So she's just gone, "Yeah, well, I'm going to be a victim."
If Labour's hope lies in Angela Rayner, then Britain's future looks like a sitcom with no writers and too much improv. She's not the change we need, she's the cows we were trying to get away from. Build a vision for the country on vibes and vitriol and yether. She's armed with sound bites, styly, and the confidence of someone who's never been told no by a focus group. So next time she marches out with a laminated pamphlet of recycled promises, remember this or don't. It's terrifying. Angela Rayner doesn't need to be destroyed by critics. She's doing a perfectly good job of imploding all by herself. Real tragedy is she thinks the fireworks are applause.